he was a professional Street Fighter player.
Was he really?
Yeah, he commented. He's the one that commented on our thing that no one because Tekken sucks.
Oh yeah, Jazzy Jesus.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. What was your first experience? Ron, let's go with Ron. What was your first experience?
My first, of course, is Street Fighter already.
Which one? Street Fighter 1 or Street Fighter 2? Oh yeah,
the 2. In the arcade. I'm just button mashing at that time. Hindi ako marunong ng mga moves like Guile's Sonic Boom. No, I didn't know that.
Button mashers.
Sa una.
Yeah, do you remember the first time? So I think the button mashers. The first one was like everybody would pick Dazlin, right? Because you could stretch.
That's actually he's my pick always.
Dazlin, because you could stretch and you could slide kick, right?
Like, I can do a yoga fire. And then he will tease you after you win. After button mashing, nakakaasar yun eh. And then he will do these dance moves, right? So it's Street Fighter 2 for me. And then it has and then there was Street Fighter 2 Turbo, some other variations, but it's still Street Fighter, right?
Yeah.
So that was my first.
It's a classic. I'm pretty sure that Street Fighter is on everybody's list because it really was such an iconic game. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That was simple.
Chun-Li with her move.
That's the advanced version already. Wait, that's hella loud. I can't. Okay, there. I'm gonna pause that because that's hella loud. Is it blasting on your guys' headphones too, or no?
No, we can't hear it on our end.
No audio. It's blasting in my headphones. I can't really. Okay, actually, now that I know that we can't hear it, I'm just gonna put it on mute and we'll just have it play in the background while we talk about it. All right, there we go.
Pwede.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So this is the super. Yeah. Well, I'll get to that. Sonia, what was your first experience with fighting games?
Well, my first experience. Okay, now that you mentioned that game that you don't remember the name of, was it Kung Fu? Anyways,
I forgot the name of that game.
So it's kind of like a side scroll, and you're like fighting. So when I, was thinking about all the fighting games that I really enjoyed, I was thinking of more this format where you're like, there's two characters and you're fighting each other.
Yeah.
So now I have to mention would Prince of Persia like the first ever, would that be considered?
That's a platformer.
That's a platformer. Okay.
So because you're jumping from platform to platform, so that's called a platformer.
Yeah,
but
Okay, but so you're fighting a lot.
Well, you had a sword too, but so the difference between Kung Fu and say that game was Kung Fu was it's what you would call more of a beat 'em up now. So there's also beat 'em ups aren't fighting games. So beat 'em ups are like an offshoot, right? So Final Fight was supposed to be Street Fighter 2, but it became Final Fight. Yeah, right. That's basically like Double Dragon. So it was like Kung Fu, then like Double Dragon came out, then Final Fight. So that was kind of the progression of fighting games that became beat 'em ups. Right. Yeah, then the fighting games became it was basically so Fighting Street or Street Fighter the original, which I just beat live. I beat that game live. It's so hard to beat. I beat that game live on yeah. So that was like that one, and then that video game that Jean-Claude Van Damme was playing were like the first like PvP fighting games. But then again, if you played what was that one? My favorite one, Streets of Rage on Genesis. You could also do player versus player.
Oh, there's an option for that. I thought
there's a PvP option also. Yeah, so that was also like super super interesting. But okay, so let's get to Street Fighter, guys. So what was your when you first saw Street Fighter? Were you guys in the arcade, or where were you guys at when you first saw Street Fighter?
I was in an arcade for the first time.
Yeah.
So we're give us the setting, Ron. Like, where were you?
At the mall. I think it's at the mall with my brothers. I'm not yet that into games that time. Pero being a kid, you're very fascinated about looking at this arcade machine, and then you can insert coins and play games, right? So, and we can play together, well, versus each other, no? So that's the appeal for me. And then eventually I fell in love with the concept of the challenge of me beating these characters until I get to the end, which is to the boss, which is for Street Fighter. It's Vega, right? What's called it? What's his name again?
Vega in Asia, and then it was
there's a confusion there. M Bison, right? M Bison.
M Bison in America and Vega in Asia. Yeah.
Yeah. What's with
That's
that?
Why
Right?
I got so confused.
Okay. There's a story to that, right?
History lesson. Okay.
Yeah.
So Balrog, Balrog is supposed to be Vega, and M Bison is supposed to be Balrog. Balrog is the boxer, and they named him after Mike Tyson. That's why they called him M Bison. But when the game came out in America, they were afraid they were going to get sued by Mike Tyson, and so they changed the name last minute.
Okay.
So that's why there was a name swap. That's why. That's why. M Bison became M Bison and not Vega, and Vega became the flamenco dancing fighter.
A master, right?
Yeah. How about you, Sonia? Where did you first encounter Street Fighter 2?
I was at my cousin's place. I would visit here in the Philippines a lot, and my cousins would go to. I don't know if it was my cousin's place or like my cousin's friend. Besides, it was like the neighborhood in Merville, and we would go to this person's house, and they would be playing Street Fighter, like and I was the button mash queen, still am.
Who's your character?
Yeah, my character, Shepherd, I always pick Chun-Li, but sometimes when I felt Madaya, I would do Dalsim because he does this. Boom. I don't know how to...
Dalsim's the Eddie of Street Fighter. No?
Yeah, that's basically what he is, for sure. So, yeah. And then we used like the huge what was it, the joystick pad thing?
Right.
That's what they were using.
The Pro controller. Yeah, I remember those. So the first time I encountered Street Fighter, I was at a hotel called Treasure Island in Las Vegas, and we were staying there, and then we were like just looking at this game, going like, "What the hell is this thing?" Right? Like it was so foreign to us, and it was me and my cousins, right? And then so the only thing we ever figured out was how to do that Dawson sliding thing, and we actually got all the way to Vega, aka Balrog. That's what, and we could never beat him, but we spent at least $10 on that game, and we didn't know anything about these super moves, right? We didn't know anything about them, right? Then I remember going home, and then just like just forgetting about the game, and then a few months later, the arcade cabinet started popping up in Los Angeles, and then I started playing. I have another funny Street Fighter story.
Go.
So one arcade popped up at the comic book shop near my house, which is called a Comic Cult, right? And it was next to this restaurant called the Golden Pheasant. And the Golden Pheasant was a Chinese restaurant owned by Michelle Kwan's parents. Michelle Kwan, the world famous ice skater. So she would actually, before she was a world famous ice skater, she would actually be in that comic book shop with me because we'd be bored and we'd just be playing Street Fighter together all the time. So it was like the most random thing.
Wow, that's cool.
It's so random, dude. Like,
cool, man.
Yeah. And then I didn't know who she was, and then a few years later, I think when I discovered Street Fighter, I was probably like around 9 or 10 years old, right? When did Street Fighter come out? Like 91?
Let me check. I mean, it's 80s probably, right?
It feels like earlier. Yeah,
maybe earlier. Yeah.
Maybe late 80s.
Yeah, so I don't know. So that's where I pretty much saw that's so that's my weird Street Fighter thing. And then then all the weird iterations came out, and then I guess I wasn't a professional Street Fighter player, but when it came to the US, because there's no internet and people would play each other live, right? But in the arcades, the arcade where everybody would play at was the Circus big screen arcade, right? They had it was a huge screen. I don't know, maybe it was like a movie theater size screen that was in the arcade, and that's where people would play each other competitively. And I remember one time, I ran it for about an hour, which is really good because like, I kicked everyone's ass for a straight hour, and it was the best players in the country at the time. And that was like my most professional I was ever at. But that was at Street Fighter Alpha already. I wasn't
pro player. Okay.
No, there was no pros yet. But then those were that was the first time that that was kind of like the first place where it was like Las Vegas, and all the teenagers in the world would go there because their parents were there, right, gambling, and everyone would meet up and play at that arcade. That's pretty much where the best players were at that time. So that's about it.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So did you guys ever get into competitive playing at all?
No.
Not competitive, but I really wanted to. Do you remember when DJ had that event? He had like what was it? Video games and beat, 8-bit and beat, I think. At this like and at this it's sort of like not a gentleman's club in that way, but it was like a place for guys to like, there's a bar, there's a place to get, it's like a barber. It's like a barber shop, but in the back it had like a secret room for massages, and like you could play video games.
What?
I thought was
sounds...
No, it isn't. I know it sounds really sketch, but it's really, really cool.
I know what you're talking about. The refined.
Yeah, the refined. So
Okay.
I went to one of the events, and like I was actually doing really well. They did like a little tournament thing, and I was doing it was Street Fighter 5.
What were you guys playing? Street Fighter
5. At
Street Fighter 3, I was already checked out, dude. I'm trying to get better at Street Fighter 3 right now.
Okay. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I was like, maybe I can, like, I don't know. I really felt like I wanted to start, even at least training to be a competitive enough. So yeah, I thought about that. Even with Tekken as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know one of our what's his face? What's Homeboy's name again? I keep on forgetting. The homeboy that manages Boogie. Homeboy from Texas. Why am I forgetting his name? He was a professional.
Wait.
Yeah. He was a professional Street Fighter player.
Was he really?
Yeah. He commented. He's the one that commented on our thing that no one, because Tekken sucks.
Oh yeah, Jazzy Jesus.
Oh yeah, there you go.